Title: My uncle's death was ruled an accident. I just found a photo that proves it wasn't, and my whole family's involved. It started with a box in my grandmother's attic. I had flown into Michigan after her funeral. She died in her sleep at 86 peacefully, which was more than I could say for the rest of my family. My mother had stopped speaking to her years ago. My aunt didn't show up for the service. Only my cousin Liz and I bothered to stay behind to clean the house and handle the estate. Everyone else wanted the house sold, divided, erased. That should have been the first sign. We were sorting through the attic, dust, insulation, old furniture, when I found a heavy wooden chest. It was locked, but the key was still taped beneath it. Inside were dozens of photo albums, mostly family stuff, birthdays, holidays, fishing trips up north. And then, at the bottom, a red envelope taped shut. It was labeled, "Do not open. Not until I'm gone." I showed it to Liz and we exchanged a look. This wasn't some dramatic will reading. It wasn't like Grandma to keep secrets. I opened it. Inside was a single Polaroid, a photo I'd never seen before. It was taken in our old lake house in 1996, the summer my Uncle Derrick died. He had fallen off the dock at night and drowned. That's what the police said. That's what everyone said. I was only 6. All I remember was crying, and my dad screaming at the cops when they zipped Derrick into that black bag. But in this photo, Uncle Derrick was standing in the kitchen, soaked from head to toe, face bruised and eye swollen. And in the corner of the image, barely visible but unmistakable, was my father, standing behind him, holding what looked like a boat hook. There was blood on it. Liz turned white. I sat down hard on the attic floor. The photo was dated 1 day before Derrick died. There was no note, no context, just the image. But it told a story clearer than any police report. My dad didn't try to save Derrick. He hurt him. I didn't sleep that night. Liz and I took the photo to her apartment and scanned it in high-res. We found a timestamp on the back, 10:14 p.m. That means Derrick was alive, injured, and possibly attacked the night before his body washed up near the dock. We went through every box in Grandma's house that week. Found nothing else like it. But the more we searched, the more odd things surfaced. Letters from Derrick to Grandma. Panicked, handwritten, dated a week before his death. One said, "He knows. I think I made a mistake telling him about the money." Another, "If something happens, don't trust Carl. Carl is my dad." I confronted my mom first. She looked at the photo, then walked to the sink and lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. She hadn't smoked in over 20 years. "You weren't supposed to see that," she said. I asked her who took it. She didn't answer. That's when I knew. She knew all along. Apparently, Derrick had discovered that someone was embezzling money from their father's construction business, and all signs pointed to my dad. He confronted him at the lake house. A fight broke out. The fall was a cover-up. Grandma knew, maybe Aunt Rachel too, but they closed ranks. They grieved. They shut the house down, scattered Derrick's things, and never mentioned his name again. My whole childhood, I thought Uncle Derrick had died in a tragic accident. Now I knew he was murdered, and my family covered it up. Liz and I didn't know what to do at first. Go to the police? The case was decades cold. And how do you accuse your own father of murder? There's no statute of limitations on homicide, but without more evidence, we had nothing concrete. So we dug deeper. We reached out to old friends of Derrick. An ex-girlfriend gave us an old camcorder tape from a trip to the lake 3 days before he died. In it, you could hear him arguing with someone in another room. The voice was unmistakable, my dad. The tape was grainy, the audio choppy, but the words came through. "Derrick, I'm not letting you take it. You're not getting away with this, Carl." "Dad, then maybe you shouldn't be swimming alone at night." Chilling. We hired a lawyer. Quietly, the lawyer helped us draft a statement and gather everything. The photo, the letters, the tape. She said it was enough to reopen the case. Last week, detectives showed up at my parents' house. They didn't arrest him, not yet, but they seized the photo, the tapes, and my grandmother's box. And now, my dad won't return my calls. My mom changed her number. Aunt Rachel posted a bizarre message on Facebook about betrayal by blood and has gone radio silent. As of today, the case is officially being re-examined by the County Cold Case Unit. They've even ordered a review of Derrick's autopsy. The detective I spoke to told me off the record that the bruises were dismissed back then as post-mortem damage from the lake current. But we know better now. I don't know where this ends. Maybe my dad gets away with it again. Maybe more secrets come out. Maybe someone else in the family helped. But what I do know, the lies are cracking. And the ghost we buried in 1996 just woke up. Update 1. The lake house holds more than bones. It's been 4 days since I handed everything to the cold case unit. The past week feels like I've been walking through molasses. Every phone buzz, every knock at the door makes my heart race. My dad still hasn't called. My mom's social media has gone dark. And Aunt Rachel? She deleted her entire Facebook account and left her house in Ontario, according to one of her neighbors. But things just escalated in a way I wasn't prepared for. Liz and I decided to drive up to the old lake house this weekend. It's been abandoned since 2002. The property was technically under Grandma's name, and after she passed, it reverted to the family estate. The plan was to sell it, but now, with the investigation underway, everything's on hold. We went in the daylight just to look around. I don't know what we expected to find. Maybe more photos, maybe some proof of what actually happened that night. I think, deep down, I just wanted to stand where it happened. I needed to feel something real, to replace the foggy memory I had of that summer. The smell of algae, the boat creaking against the dock, the adults whispering when they thought we couldn't hear. The house was a tomb. Dust, mildew, shattered windows. But the dock was still there, rotten in places but intact. And when I stepped out onto it, I froze. The exact spot where Derrick's body had been found was marked. Not officially, but there was something buried under one of the planks. Liz noticed it first. A plank near the edge had clearly been lifted and nailed back down. Recently, maybe in the last few years, we pried it up. Underneath, in a space just big enough for a small metal box, we found a lockbox wrapped in plastic. Inside, a bloodstained shirt, a handwritten confession, dated August 1996, a disposable camera, a key with the initials CS. The letter, Jesus. It wasn't from my dad. It was from Aunt Rachel. She said she wasn't strong enough to do the right thing, that Derrick had found out what Carl, my dad, was doing. Laundering money through the business and investing it through offshore accounts in Rachel's name to avoid suspicion. Derrick threatened to report both of them. The letter ends with, Carl did it. I helped clean it up. I told Mother it was an accident. We all agreed. We had to. If Derrick talked, we all burned. Liz and I sat on the dock for over an hour, just staring at that box. The camera was undeveloped. We rushed it to a local photography lab, one of the few places that still develops film. The owner said he'd rush it for us. We're supposed to get the photos back tomorrow. As for the key marked CS, I think it might be for a safety deposit box. We're tracing Grandma's bank accounts now, trying to find any active boxes under her name that might still exist. If she kept one secret photo hidden for decades, there might be more. We turned the lockbox and the letter over to the detectives this morning. They called us this evening. They're officially upgrading the case from accidental to potential homicide. They've requested DNA testing on the shirt. They believe it belonged to Derrick. And just hours ago, my dad's lawyer contacted Liz's lawyer. Carl Sharp, my father, has hired criminal defense counsel. He knows the net is tightening, and we're just getting started. Update 2. My father has vanished, and the photos changed everything. We got the film back. The roll from the disposable camera we found under the dock developed into 17 photos, most of them blurry, a few water-damaged. But 2 stood out. 2 photos that made Liz drop her coffee cup right onto the floor and me sit down so fast I nearly missed the chair. The first showed Derrick sitting at the lake house's kitchen table, a fresh cut bleeding down the side of his temple. He looked shaken, wide-eyed, like he'd just been punched. There was an open ledger book on the table, and next to it what looked like a passport and a manila envelope with banking documents. He was pointing at something, off camera, and standing behind him, Half caught in the edge of the frame was Aunt Rachel, face pale, mouth open, hands lifted in a gesture that screamed, "Don't do this." The second? Derrick outside. Same day, likely same hour. Standing at the edge of the dock, holding the same envelope. He was mid-step, looking over his shoulder. In the background, approaching from the woods behind him, was my father. You could only see his shoulder and hand, but that hand held a rope. I felt my stomach twist so hard I thought I might vomit. We rushed the photos to the detectives. Their reaction was immediate and serious, no more vague reassurances. They scanned them, labeled them evidence, and ordered a forensic image specialist to authenticate them. According to them, if validated, these photos, along with Rachel's letter and the bloodstained shirt, are enough to request a grand jury. But things spiraled quickly, because last night my father went missing. I didn't even know until a deputy showed up at my apartment asking when I'd last seen or spoken to him. I told them the truth. Not since the funeral. The officer gave me a look that said he didn't believe me. Then he told me my dad had missed a scheduled meeting with his attorney. His phone had been off for 2 days, and his car was found abandoned at a rest stop 3 towns over, with the keys still in the ignition. Worse, inside the glove box was a letter. A typed and signed note that read, "You only bury one body to keep a secret. You bury 2 when the secret tries to walk again." Now they're not just treating this as a homicide. They're treating it as a possible double homicide in the making. They've issued an alert. Not a warrant yet, but my dad is officially a person of interest, and law enforcement believes he might be trying to either flee the country or silence someone. Liz has moved in with me. We both installed doorbell cams. My lawyer advised me to keep a record of everything, texts, emails, calls. I've also been asked not to disclose certain details publicly anymore, for safety. But here's what I can say. Aunt Rachel is under protective watch. She finally spoke to the investigators in full and admitted that she helped dispose of Derrick's clothes, burned part of his notebook, and gave false statements to the police in 1996. Forensic analysis of the shirt revealed 2 sets of blood. Derrick's and my father's. They believe the struggle was violent. The local dive team is now surveying the bottom of the lake near the old dock. Investigators think something else might have been dumped there, maybe Derrick's ledger or the rest of the financial records. They're bringing in sonar. I don't know where my father is. I don't know if he's hiding or watching, but I've learned one thing in all of this. When your family hides a murder, they don't bury the truth deep enough. Not forever. And now that it's surfaced, there's no going back. More soon if I'm still here to tell it. Update 3. The body in the lake and the secret fund. I don't know how to describe what I'm about to write. My hands are shaking. I haven't slept in 36 hours. I've just returned from the county police station, and the entire story, everything I thought I knew, has exploded into something I can barely process. Let me start with the lake. The dive team found something. 2 days ago, they began a grid search around the far end of the lake near the old canoe launch, about 70 yards from the dock. The area had never been properly searched in 1996 because Derrick's body was recovered quickly and they ruled it accidental. But based on the positioning in the photos and Aunt Rachel's testimony, they wanted to sweep the full lakebed. What they found stunned everyone. A second body. It was skeletal remains inside a metal drum, chained shut with cinder blocks. The forensic team pulled it up slowly and carefully. Inside were human bones, a rusted handgun, and a wallet, still partially intact. The ID card was faded but legible under UV light. Eric Talbot. That name meant nothing to me. But when Liz and I heard it, our lawyer looked like someone had kicked her in the gut. She made a call immediately. Turns out, Eric Talbot was a former accountant who worked for my grandfather's company, the same company Derrick and Carl inherited. Eric disappeared in 1995, a year before Derrick's death, and was presumed a runaway due to gambling debts and shady ties. The family never spoke about him. When I asked my mother, she brushed it off as an embarrassment. But now it's clear he didn't run. He was silenced. And then today, this morning, we got a call from the police. They had traced the CS key from the box under the dock. It matched a safety deposit box at a private bank in Traverse City, under a trust in my grandmother's name. Warrant in hand, they opened it. Inside was another box, wrapped in velvet. Inside that was a drive, a very old portable hard drive, and documents dating from 1993 to 1996. It was a full ledger of offshore bank accounts, investments, and transfers totaling $8.2 million USD. And at the top of the document trail, my dad's name, Aunt Rachel's, and Eric Talbot's. It was a slush fund. My dad had been laundering construction money into dummy corporations and using Eric as the fixer. Derrick discovered it when he was helping prepare the annual taxes, and when he confronted my father, Eric disappeared. A year later, Derrick died. The police believe Derrick had threatened to expose the entire network, especially after he found out that my dad was routing some of the money to criminal entities, something Rachel claims she never knew. So now we have a second confirmed murder victim, a financial motive backed by a massive paper trail. To 2 confessions, 1 handwritten, Rachel's, 1 verbal, her police interview, 2 eyewitnesses, me and Liz, and a fugitive, my father, who has now officially been charged with first-degree murder and financial crimes in the state of Michigan. Here's where it gets even darker. According to Aunt Rachel, the money was never actually spent. Most of it was parked overseas. Grandma found out after Derrick's death. She demanded my dad stop and return it. He refused. So Grandma took the key, locked up the evidence, and never spoke about it again. She believed her silence kept her family from falling apart. She died carrying that guilt. Now I understand why she taped that photo inside the envelope. She wanted someone to find it, just not while she was alive. As of now, the manhunt for my father has expanded into Ohio and even into parts of Canada. They believe he might be attempting to cross the border under a fake identity. Interpol has been alerted. His photo is in law enforcement databases. We're being offered federal witness protection. Liz is leaning toward it. I'm not sure yet. I never thought a box of old photos in an attic would unravel a double murder, an embezzlement scheme, and 3 decades of rot beneath the surface of my family's legacy. But it has, and this isn't over. Update 4. He found me. It's 3:11 a.m. as I'm writing this. I haven't slept. I can't. Liz is lying on the couch, clutching a baseball bat like it'll save her if anything happens. The cops left about 20 minutes ago, and I still can't feel my hands properly. Because my father was here. Let me back up. Around 11:40 p.m., we heard something outside. A soft tap on the back window. We both froze. Our motion lights had been tripping off randomly the last few nights, and I had written it off as squirrels or wind, but this time it wasn't that. There was a figure outside, watching. He stood perfectly still in the shadows between the hedges, and when Liz whispered, "Call 911," I already had the phone to my ear. He didn't knock. He didn't shout. He slipped a note under the door. Then he was gone, like smoke, vanished into the night. The police arrived 15 minutes later. Fast, but not fast enough. They searched the area, nothing. No footprints. No vehicle. No signs of forced entry. Just the note. It was handwritten. I made sacrifices for this family. I buried 1 son to protect the rest. Now I see the rest were never worth it. You opened the grave. You better be ready to lie in it. I'm shaking as I type those words. The handwriting matched. It's his. He's taunting us, threatening us. My father knows he's cornered and he's lashing out. We were advised to leave the state immediately. The feds are now coordinating with state police, and they believe he may be circling his old contacts, trying to buy time or possibly someone else's identity. But here's the part that keeps repeating in my head. I buried 1 son to protect the rest. There's always been something about Derrick's death that didn't make sense. Why my father seemed so calm at the funeral. Why Rachel always had that distant, haunted look. Why Grandma, strict, moral, devout, never spoke a word against Carl, even though I know she knew the truth. Now, reading that note, I'm starting to believe something even darker. What if Derrick wasn't the only son my father silenced? What if there's more? I went back to the documents from the safety deposit box, flipping through the early ledgers again, searching for names. And that's when I found it. A reference to a DT trust dated 1994, transferring $50,000 to a private group home in upstate Michigan, listed under a pseudonym. The initials matched someone Grandma used to mention in passing, only once or twice. A name I'd almost forgotten. Daniel. My uncle. Derrick and Carl's younger brother. The one no one ever talked about. He was supposed to have died in a car crash in the early 90s. But there's no death certificate. No obituary. No funeral records. Just silence. Liz is already helping me dig. If this Daniel still exists, if he's alive and hidden away somewhere, then my father's lies run even deeper than murder or money. He didn't just kill a son. He erased a brother. And now the skeletons are waking up. Next update might come from a safe house, or a hotel, or somewhere with bars on the windows. I'm scared, but I'm not backing down. Update 5. The Lost Brother and the Silence That Screams. We found him. Daniel. I can't believe I'm even writing this. That after nearly 30 years of being erased from every family photo, every story, every memory, my uncle is still alive. Let me explain. After the last update, Liz and I left our apartment under federal guidance and were temporarily relocated to a protected address outside Chicago. I didn't want to go. Every part of me wanted to stay and fight. But the FBI insisted we needed to cool off after the break-in and the direct threat from my father. They were now officially calling Carl Sharp, armed and extremely dangerous, with a warrant posted to every agency from ICE to Interpol. But while we were under federal protection, we kept digging. Liz found a lead, a financial record hidden in a public probate filing for a group home under the name Cedar Hollow Residential Care, buried in a pile of archived bankruptcy documents from 2001. One of the pages listed a Daniel S. with a date of admission, August 7, 1992. That's the same year Derrick supposedly had a breakdown, and my dad took over the family business. We passed the information to the authorities. 2 days later, they confirmed it. Daniel Sharp, aged 57, still resided in a long-term care home in northern Michigan. Diagnosed in early adulthood with what was then classified as paranoid schizophrenia. He was committed voluntarily under guardianship. His guardian? Listed until 2010, Carl Sharp. And here's the most damning part. His admission file included a psychiatric evaluation. Daniel had suffered a breakdown in 1992 after allegedly witnessing something traumatic and criminal during a company event at the lake house. The report refers vaguely to violence, threats, and coercion. He told doctors he saw something that proved Carl was dangerous. After that, Carl convinced the rest of the family he was unstable. They had him committed, and from that moment on, they erased him. They told everyone Daniel died in a car crash. Even Derrick believed it, but he hadn't died. He'd been locked away, his reality rewritten. Until now, federal agents visited the facility last week. Daniel is under supervision, but his mental state is surprisingly lucid for someone who's been institutionalized for so long. And he remembered everything. He told investigators that Carl made him disappear to protect the family's secrets, and that Derrick had confronted him in 1996 after learning the truth about both Daniel and the money laundering. When Derrick threatened to go public, Carl panicked. And we know the rest. Daniel has now given a full recorded statement. He corroborates the ledger documents, the banking scheme, the lake house arguments, and even the existence of the second victim, Eric Talbot. He remembers Eric confronting Carl about a missing $400,000, and then vanishing a week later. That's 3 people my father tried to erase. But it's not working anymore. The justice system is moving faster now. Federal indictments are being unsealed. The forensic analysis of the second body came back. It is 100% confirmed to be Eric Talbot, with a bullet wound through the back of his skull. That gun? The rusted one in the lake drum? It had Carl's prints preserved on the internal magazine. An arrest warrant has been reissued with double homicide, financial crimes, obstruction of justice, and unlawful detainment of a vulnerable adult. My father is now officially wanted for murder, fraud, and kidnapping. They believe he's using cash to stay off the grid, possibly under the protection of someone from his offshore network. There's even suspicion that someone inside law enforcement may be leaking him information. His last confirmed location was a border town in Maine, but that was 5 days ago. Since then, nothing. I've seen his face on national news. There's a hotline. There's a $50,000 reward. As for Daniel, he's being moved to a secure care center with full legal counsel. Liz and I met him yesterday. He looked tired, worn. But when I walked in, he smiled and said, "You have your mother's eyes." And then he cried. I sat with him for an hour. He told me how proud Derrick would be, how he thought no one would ever come looking for him, how he thought his story would die behind padded walls. But not anymore. The last ghost has spoken, and now there's only one left to find. Final update. The end of the line. They got him. At 3:47 a.m. this morning, Carl Sharp, my father, was apprehended by U.S. Marshals in a remote cabin outside St. Johnsbury, Vermont, barely 30 miles from the Canadian border. He was armed, malnourished, and reportedly alone. No struggle, no last stand. He opened the door, stared at the barrel of a rifle and said, "Took you long enough." He was hiding under an alias, Mark Caldwell. The cabin was rented using forged documents and paid for in cash. Inside, investigators found a duffel bag with over $60,000, multiple passports, a shortwave radio, a locked hard drive, and a loaded 9mm pistol. The bag also had a burner phone, and on it, one unsent text, just one. "It was always supposed to end with me." He knew. He knew the walls had closed in. I was woken by the call at 4:12 a.m. My hands were numb, my breath caught in my throat. Even now, as I sit in this hotel room, the 6th one we've lived in since this all started, I'm struggling to believe that this chapter is finally ending. For so long, it felt like he'd just vanish forever. This phantom of violence and lies, a dark force lingering at the edge of every shadow. But now he's behind bars. The charges are stacked. 2 counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy to defraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice, unlawful institutionalization, and God knows what else. They're still combing through the digital files. He'll face both state and federal court. And me? I gave testimony. It was surreal sitting across from the prosecutors, explaining that my childhood birthday parties were held at the same lake where my uncle was executed, where my other uncle drowned under mysterious circumstances, and where my father hid millions in stolen funds while locking away his youngest brother in a facility like an unwanted secret. Daniel is improving. Slowly. The doctors say he has lucid periods where he recalls everything with painful clarity, and others where the trauma clouds him. But he recognizes us now. Liz and I visit once a week. He always asks if the storm is over, and I finally told him today, yes, it is. The town back home, the one that worshipped my family name, is still reeling. The old company was dissolved. Half the board members resigned. The Sharp Foundation was liquidated. Grandma's estate, as per her revised will, hidden in the same envelope that started all this, is being redirected to fund mental health programs and victim advocacy centers. It's the first good thing the Sharp name has done in decades. As for Rachel, she testified under immunity. Her confession, though decades too late, helped put the puzzle together. She's disappeared from public life entirely, and I honestly don't care where she ends up. She lived in cowardice while others bled for her silence. And my mother? She called once. From a blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. She said she didn't know what Carl was doing, that she thought the money was just tax tricks, and that she never imagined the blood that came with it. I haven't called her back. Maybe I will one day. Maybe I won't. This story started with a photo, a faded Polaroid at the bottom of a cedar box in an attic no one had touched in 20 years. A photo my grandmother left like a breadcrumb, a warning, or maybe a final cry for justice she could never speak aloud. It led to a grave, to a brother thought dead but hidden, to a family shattered by power, greed, and secrets. It led to truth, the kind that cuts deeper than any lie. We've moved again, this time for good. A small town in Oregon, quiet, green, surrounded by trees that don't carry memories. Liz has taken a job at a local library. I'm writing again. Maybe one day this will be a book. Or maybe it'll stay here on Reddit, one last confession among a million anonymous truths. I'll leave you with this. Sometimes the worst monsters wear familiar faces. Sometimes the most dangerous place in the world isn't a battlefield or a dark alley. It's the family home. But truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface, even after 30 years. Thank you for listening. Thank you for stepping into another tale with me. Every story unlocks a different world, and I'm glad you were here for the journey. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my stories Unchained, where every ending is just the beginning of another adventure. Until next time, keep your mind open and your heart ready for the next story, Unchained.